More news, more truths coming to light. Guys, this episode with Ramagem is going to give the director of the federal police an unimaginable headache. What will end up happening, because after all the information that came out, him drinking whiskey there with Vorcaro, travel and accommodation paid by Vorcaro, and then a situation like this happens. Flavio got involved, and Trump knows that he will be the new president of this country. We're going to show you all the facts here. Hit the like button, come be part of our family, subscribe to our channel, turn on the notification bell. Leave a comment. Look, just a moment ago. Just now. Paulo Figueiredo, Paulinho, is really awesome. This guy is really amazing. This guy is the man, dude. He's the man. Official document of Ramagem's detention, whose content was released by Metropolis, disproves the narrative of Lula's federal police. Guys. What the federal police are doing, man, it should be completely separated. There's no way, because both Shandong and Lula are so annoying. The defeat is going to be huge for both of them. What the NTA says is clear. ICE understood it in the usual way. In immigration cases, Ramagem would be subject to deportation for overstaying beyond the authorized period. There is absolutely nothing about cooperation with Brazilian authorities, nor any mention of a crime in Brazil. Zero. Do you know what's the most absurd thing? They said that Ramagem was a terrorist. That Ramagem is wanted for international crimes, barbaric stuff. Low even for their standards. Because Ramagem is going to be the Director General of the Federal Police. You can be sure of it. Flavio will put him there. Even more now, given all the persecution. Ramagem will be. And when the lawyers start to explain, because they're scared to death of Ramagem over there in the United States. Ramagem is a federal police commissioner. Elite. He is the former chief of the Brazilian intelligence agency, when the Brazilian agency was actually about intelligence, not this one, which is used to persecute Brazilians. He has several decorations. It's easy to analyze people. I'm going to say, hold on. How can a man like that be in this situation? And the fact is, the one who sentenced him was Alexandre de Moraes. Mr. Magnitsky, hey guys, look, there could be a situation that will completely sink these people, okay? This is something simple to clarify. It will take some time, some bureaucracy, but Ramagem should be released soon. Since he has a pending asylum request, he has legal status in the United States. The serious thing is the fact that once their cooperation and extradition requests were not granted, Lula's federal police tried to trick the Americans so that Ramagem would be deported as a legal immigrant, which he is not. And not satisfied with that, they also tricked the press, saying they acted in cooperation with the Americans. That was a lie, and I'm going to show you that here. Stay until the end of the video. It's the police, Lula's trick, the cretin, right? The CRDN, right? The House needs to call Andre to explain why he's pulling these tricks. I have a tip for him. You tagged the prince here, right? I served McLan whiskey at the hearing because it's the little liar's favorite. Paulo Figueiredo mentioned it because it's a fact, and until a few days ago, the chief of the federal police was here. I'm drinking whiskey, traveling, getting expenses, and lodging covered, all paid for by Vorcaro, you know? So what? Ramagem has state secrets. Ramagem was aware of everything that was happening inside, right at the core. He knows all about President Bolsonaro's government and this current misgovernment. He knows everything. It's just that the time hasn't come yet for him to talk, clarify, and explain everything in detail. They're in trouble. In trouble because, look, Flavio got involved too, right? The former congressman and federal police officer Alexander Ramagem was detained by ICE over a purely immigration-related matter. He has a pending asylum request, is well supported legally, and there is an expectation that he will be released soon. Flavio posted, "I am convinced that the American authorities will recognize the validity of this request and will understand that Ramagem is yet another victim of political persecution, a victim of the same absurd narrative that led to my father's imprisonment. This will end next year. Brazil will no longer have prisoners, exiles, or people granted asylum due to political persecution. The country will once again be an example of democracy." Flavio posted this with a photo of himself next to Ramagem and President Bolsonaro. Flavio has a lot of respect for Ramagem. They're in trouble. Then the truth came out, right? About this whole case. "Everything I said was based on documents. I'm not the kind of person to give opinions like many people do out there," says Paulo.
Are you trying to say that Andre Rodriguez's narrative is false, that it's dishonest? There is no collaboration with American authorities or the Brazilian federal police. He isn't under arrest. It was just a traffic violation. That's all.
I'm saying I believe the federal police director general is lying. We have no knowledge of any cooperation. That doesn't stop an immigration detention, which is normal and part of the process. Others go through this as well. It's something that has been happening here with thousands of people. And once there is a legitimate asylum request pending, which hasn't been denied, we even check the USS system, which is the immigration authority here in the United States, and the asylum is still pending. It hasn't been denied. Once this is clarified with the authorities, our expectation is that he will be released as soon as possible. What exists? Brazilian extradition cases. It's important to make.
He had already made that statement. Now, as evening begins, look at this. Everything I said was proven. Everything. What a sad country where the federal police lies in an official statement. Cooperation, Miguel. Metropoli released it. The United States says that Ramagem is subject to deportation after his visa expired. First, he had released that statement. Then things started falling into place. Look at that. Then Paulo posted, "Lies don't last long, Andre." 2. The director of the federal police. Sam Puncher posted the information on X. So, there was no collaboration from the federal police. Question mark. The federal police says there was, but it wasn't through an extradition request, which is processed by the State Department. It was simply the federal police helping ICE locate a Brazilian who was in the United States with an expired visa. Look at what the federal police did. They tried to trick us. What's going on? They saw, because they have an investigation service, that Ramagem's visa was expired. He applied for political asylum in the United States, right? So they said, let's file a report, come here, say that he's illegal, that his visa has expired, that he has to be deported, and so on. Then ICE will go there and get him. Detain him. What a terrible thing, man. What a terrible thing. It wasn't international cooperation. It was snitching. They wanted a victory, but there was no international cooperation, not the federal police with the State Department or Marco Rubio. It wasn't like that. Man, look. The guy who said this here, this Andre, confirmed the information that the work of the Brazilian police official with ICE is part of a cooperation between Brazilian authorities. It wasn't. It wasn't. He was on an expired tourist visa, and they took advantage of this situation to do this outrageous thing to Ramagem. Sam Puncher himself points it out here. There was no cooperation. His extradition request exists, it's being processed by the State Department, but it expired. Knowing this, he went there and did all this barbarity to be able to commit this atrocity. People are still commenting here. The sham has been exposed. The document that tears it apart. Man. The federal police itself. What a disappointment. The official narrative has just been shattered. Metropolis had access to the real document. Ramagem was not detained as part of cooperation with the current regime here in Brazil. But for a simple expired visa, the system lied to you again. The asylum request still stands, and the truth has come out. How long will they keep trying to deceive with this state-sponsored fake news?
Latest information, we got access to a document that was issued after Ramagem's detention. And to sum up, Ramagem was detained because his stay in the United States had expired. I'll read to you here what the document says. It's a document that was given to Alexandra Ramagem himself. We got exclusive access to this document. So, the Department of Homeland Security says the following. You are not a citizen or national of the United States. You are a native and citizen of Brazil. The document goes on. You were last admitted to the United States in Miami on September 11, 2025 as a non-immigrant visitor, B2 visa. In other words, the document says here that Ramagem entered the United States on September 11 as a tourist, with authorization to stay in the United States until March 10, 2026. In other words, Alexandra Ramagem has already exceeded by 1 month the maximum period he could stay in the United States with a tourist visa. And then, the document goes on to say that Ramagem remained in the United States beyond the 10th without authorization from the Immigration Service or the Department of Homeland Security. Based on the above response, it is determined that you are subject to removal and deportation from the United States under the following legal provision. It cites Section 237A1B of the United States Immigration Law. Ramagem exceeded the legal period he was generally allowed to stay in the United States, which is 6 months. So, to sum it up, this is why he was detained. He was stopped and his documents were checked. And his visa had expired. He could no longer be in the United States. What happens now? Ramagem had already filed an asylum request. Therefore, this does not necessarily mean that Ramagem will be deported, but his tourist visa had expired, which is why he was approached by the police and his documents were checked. When they saw that he was there in an irregular situation, ICE was called and took him into custody. That's what's happening now.
More details will emerge. Major news from San Pancho and Metropolis. That's the truth. So, there was no cooperation. Oh my God, what a shame. What a shame. It's another one. Look, it's another moment when they thought they were gonna make it. They thought they were gonna have a field day with a story like this. But now the truth is emerging in the press. Even in the press itself. They lied. Globo is going to keep insisting. But as soon as Ramagem is released, he's not under arrest. He's just being detained. Detained. To investigate all of this and so on. Absolutely. There must already be several people talking to Marco Rubio. Even with President Trump, influential people. That's a rights violation because Ramagem was arrested by Alexandra de Moraes, who got hit with Magnitsky sanctions. Everyone knows the story. Over there in the American government, everyone knows the story. In other words, it went bad because they also took advantage of the moment when Trump is caught up in all this controversy. There was controversy with the Pope. Then there was controversy over an image that he ended up posting and all that. They think about all of this, my friends. They think about all of this. Let's take advantage of this moment while Trump is tense. He won't be able to get involved in a situation like this. Then we just go there, bam. Report him, snitch on him. The police snitch, man. What a shame. We snitch on Ramagem and all, then they go there and arrest him. We already pull a fast one, like Paulo says here. We grab him, deport him, bring him here, and it's a win. Another person arrested over the coup d'etat, these Bolsonaristas and all, so they can celebrate the arrest of an innocent person. Man, look, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. It backfired on them. It backfired on them. They ended up taking a huge loss, but it's still outrageous. Outrageous. What these people do just to try to distract from so much negative news, there must be some scandal about to break. There must be some scandal about to break. We'll keep an eye on it in the next few days. You can be sure of that. Share this video a lot. Share it a lot. The truth is coming out. Ramagem. Everything's going to work out for him. You can be sure of that. Flavio has joined in now. And look. What a defeat for these guys, huh? Tomorrow we'll return with more news on the Paisa Philos channel. Fabiano Gigay. Please share and like to help us reach more people. Join us. Paulo is following this whole story. Great, wonderful person. Also, great reporting by Samuel Pancher. People making a difference at this moment.